So my name is Kate Pedersen. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with shoulder-length brown hair. Today I am wearing green glasses and a tan sweater and blue pants. So when you think of accessibility, that's how you introduce yourself. And you'll learn why I bring that up later on in our presentation. So I'm here representing the Washington State Department of Commerce Energy Resilience and Emergency Management Office, where I'm an energy resilience specialist. I am a professionally trained emergency manager. I worked in long-term recovery for the state of Washington prior to moving into this role. I like to think that everywhere I go, I think of what's the worst that could happen. I rode a ferry here this morning. Every time I ride the ferry, I think about what happens when the earthquake happens. If I'm on this ferry, does it continue in the way it's going, or does it turn around? You know, that's what I stress about. I would say I'm like your favorite party guest. I'm the most, the biggest joy in the room. I'm basically the biggest downer. So, at the Washington State Department of Commerce, we strengthen communities. We have programs that serve various areas. I'm housed within the energy department. And what we're going to talk about today is what is energy resilience, and then we're going to talk about how do we value it, or how do I value it, and then I'm going to talk about a program that we run that helps get these services and these systems into the communities that need it most. So we're going to start with what is energy resilience. This is part of a presentation or a conversation that I have with communities the second time I talk to them. There's two things to think about when you think about energy resilience. You've got energy resilience and you've got reliability. So the difference is resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, whereas reliability is the quality of being trustworthy or of performing consistently well. So in thinking about energy resilient solutions, if we're looking at resilience, and as communities are defining what they need as they're moving forward with projects that they want to explore, we want to talk about, if you want resilience, you're looking at infrequent, unpredictable, and more severe events. You're also going to be dealing with both short-term and long-term outages, so thinking couple of hours up to couple of months. You're going to less frequently use these systems to their full capacity, and you're looking at an overall community resilience system. Now, when you think about those capacities within a resilient system, what I think of is this is going to be really expensive, which is true. So this is why we're going to talk about how to value resilience. When we think about reliability, we're kind of looking at the day-to-day performance and operations. We want to make sure that our system is reliable throughout the day. It might deal with more short-term or seasonal outages, or you may actually be approaching this for an economic reason. So do you want to install solar just to lower your bills? Do you want to install solar and storage because maybe you have demand metering in the sense that it's more expensive when demand is high, so you want to switch over to batteries so you're not paying for energy during those periods of time. So this is the conversation that I have to have with communities when I interact with them. We're going to talk about what is a microgrid. So a microgrid has a couple of specific components that it has to fulfill. So it incorporates a variety of different energy sources within a predefined electrical boundary. What this means is it has to generate its own energy. It usually has a storage component, and it has to have the ability to cut away from the grid. So you're going to think of it as a much smaller version of our larger grid that we rely on. So again, it can disconnect and connect to the grid as that grid is available, or maybe it's more expensive, so you want to disconnect. And this is going to be sensitive to time. So one is you may want to prioritize a microgrid or the ability to switch over very quickly because you have sensitive equipment that if it's down for even a second, it would be problematic. Or you may want to prioritize how long that grid can survive on its own. So if you are in an area that experiences prolonged outages for upwards of a week, you may prioritize a microgrid system, i.e. predominantly the battery in this situation, that would allow you to have power for that week. So this slide shows you what our normal grid looks like. This is a normal connection. So you have your utility, and it connects to your business, your home, your community. It's very straightforward. So a lot of people like to think that a microgrid might be, let's just add some solar. So this is missing a couple of those key components. With solar, you have added generation into your system, so this might add some economic reliability or, into your system. It might lower your bill. But if the grid goes off, your solar panels go off as well. So there are systems, when you install solar on your home, you have to tap into your local utilities grid, and when they shut off their system, your solar panels are also no longer generating power. And the reason for that is for worker safety. You don't want to be throwing generation out of your solar panels into a grid that could hurt people who are trying to reestablish connection at the utility scale. So with a microgrid, you have to have that ability to break away from the utility and create a closed loop system. So this is a solar and storage microgrid. So this incorporates one form of generation. So you've got your solar PV, actually two, you could have two because you have a generator as well. And then you have a storage component through energy storage. And as the normal grid breaks down, if you can turn that off, and then if the sun is out, you're using solar. If the sun's not out, you could use your backup generator, or you could use your energy storage. When we think of long-term energy resilience, we think of we want to make it a robust system, so have backup within that system. So you have energy storage, you have solar, and then you also have that generator. So how do we value it? So a lot of people like to look at cost-benefit analysis. I can tell you the energy resilience systems are not going to fulfill that. They're too expensive. They're not going to pay back, the costs. But I like to think of what is the value of peace of mind. So I looked up last week. We have over 53,000 Medicare recipients in the state of Washington who rely on medically dependent medical device or energy dependent medical devices. This could be for life-saving devices, or it could be for quality of life devices. How much does the value of your food in your refrigerator have? So food that from your refrigerator that sits at above 50 degrees for more than 2 hours must be thrown out. If you look at hospital cases for food poisoning following long-term power outages, those cases go up. Also, when your heat goes off, a lot of people will try and start, they'll run their stoves, or they'll try and start fires, small fires in their house. So cases of CO2 poisoning goes up following long-term outages. And the populations most at risk in these situations are children, English as second language speakers, racial and ethnic minorities, older adults, and rural populations or end-line users. So for me, this is the value of resilience. These are the things that matter the most, not how much money am I going to save through putting in this system. So how do I get it to where it's needed most? So at the Department of Commerce, Energy Resilience and Emergency Management Office, we run the Washington Energy Resilience Technical Assistance Program. And before I cover this program, I wanted to show you kind of a glance of what our work has done in the last 18 months. So since February of 2023, we have been serving 71 communities across the state. This includes 9 tribes, some federally recognized, others not, 14 local governments. Of these 71 communities, 84 of them are defined as rural according to the Rural Energy in America program, and 62% of these communities are within or serving vulnerable populations. Many of these communities come with multiple projects, so it's well over 80 projects across the state. And this is over $50 million in viable projects. And at this point, we have supported communities in receiving over approximately $20 million in grant funding. So our program at a glance. We meet communities where they are. We don't have to agree on the why. and we do government differently. These are the pillars that we work on. So when I say we meet communities where they are, we pay attention to their logistical needs. So when I introduce myself in a specific way, everything we do is ADA compliant in language and culturally relevant. At a minimum, if we support a community in providing a community meeting, we bring in captioning. If they need ASL services or language translation, we bring it in and we pay for it. I can't tell you how many times I live in Bremerton, so across the water. I've driven to Yakima for 2-hour meetings on numerous occasions because sometimes those communities really need you there in person. The communities are always in charge. This isn't my work. This isn't my project. I'm here to uplift them and empower them to do this work, and I fill gaps. This is their work. They get the credit. I don't take credit for any of the work that they do. And that's really important to a lot of these communities because as other speakers have said throughout today, these communities, you've got one champion that really wants to get something done. And if the state government comes in and says, look at what we did, that community's like, well, wait a minute, you didn't do anything. We've been doing this for a decade. You showed up at the last minute. I don't do that. We don't have to agree on the why. This is a big one. I work for the state. There's differing opinions across our state. And if I want to help communities to bring in energy resilient solutions, I can't come in with my own biases around climate change or decarbonization or clean energy. So we don't come in and talk about climate change if we don't start with that. We start with, what are you experiencing? What do you do when the power goes out? How often does your power go out? How can we help you serve the reality that you live in every day versus what I think you should do? And this is a big one for us. So again, I'm state government. I'm guessing of the 20 people here, maybe 1 or 2 of you have had a good experience working with the state. So we like to think we do government differently. And what does that mean? So I said I was an emergency manager. So we're very pragmatic and solutions-based. I always say that in the sense of, if I've got bad news, I'm going to tell you. And then I'm going to come up with solution or plan B, C, D. I'm not going to beat around the bush and waste your time. We're going to find solutions that work for you, and we're going to do it honestly. I tell people that's the first thing I tell communities when they meet me, so that we've set expectations so that they know what they're going to get out of me, and then they know what they can ask of me too. I'm reliable. I feel like, at least for the state, the bar is pretty low, but I answer my phone when people call me. And the first thing that people say when I answer my phone is, oh my gosh, you answered your phone. So if that's the bar, all we got to do is answer our phone, okay? But if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I mess something up, I'm going to apologize immediately and figure out a solution that works for them. Because it's really, really hard to gain trust, and it's really, really, really easy to lose it. I think of the one community that I've lost in this program. In my first meeting with them, because every community in this program that applies for this program gets a meeting with me, I told them something that I thought was true that I later learned wasn't, because I didn't understand enough about the technology. And they talked to a solar installer. The solar installer was like, well, that's not right. They called me. I got it fixed. I got them the correct information. But in that moment, I lost them, because I told them something that I thought was true and it wasn't. And I will carry that every day, because that's how quickly it can be to lose a community's trust. And on that note of reliability, we have to be authentic. And I kind of struggle with that word authentic, because it's very much a kind of buzzword, or everybody's like, oh, I'm authentic. But what that means is I've humanized the process. People know who I am. They know what they can expect. They know that they can call me. They know that I actually care. There's so many civil servants within the government who genuinely want to do good work, and all of our bureaucratic systems often have built it in a way that they can't. Or, they don't get to actually interact with the communities that they work with. I've been given the means and the ability to meet face to face, go to these communities, work with them in a way that works with them. And by doing that, I'm able to bring that human aspect and that authentic aspect to this process, which I have found has been the most well-received component of this program.